For the past 60 years, baby boomers have been changing the world. Now they're causing a retirement revolution, exploring new ways to strengthen the social safety net and provide for their own old age. They're facing the longevity risk head-on, looking at annuities, reverse mortgages, different kinds of insurance, investments in foreign markets, encore careers. Will retirement at 65 become a thing of the past?
Very good. What animal is this?
Zebra. Hexagon. Bumblebee.
Good. So what color does red and yellow make?
Orange. Rhinoceros. Yellow. Tiger. Tap.
It's important we get more out of your 401k plan. It should be
matching contributions.
Mass Mutual is proud to sponsor Retirement Revolution, another chance to learn with PBS.
Hi, I'm Paula Zahn. As the first wave of baby boomers reach their 60s, they find themselves in a different retirement world than the one they grew up in. For this generation, the anticipated safety of the American retirement experience isn't quite as certain anymore. Retirement revolution means greater longevity and better health, along with increased risk. Risk of outliving retirement savings, uncertainty about Social Security and Medicare, and in many cases, risks of no pension at all. The extended families who once took care of grandparents are sepia photos now. But for baby boomers, a generation that once had it all, is now going to have to take care of it all.
Risk is being transferred to the individual in so many different ways. The risk is really of financial management and really being the captain of your own destiny.
Well, the big hope is that you head into your retirement years with the three legs of the stool. Yes, you have your Social Security, you have what you were able to build from your employer, and you have your private savings and the equity in your home, those three legs. The sad part is that most people are heading in with pretty rickety legs.
Say you're in your 20s and newly married, then your focus is, got to get a house, and so you worry about that. And then the kids come along and you're worried about that, and then you start worrying about college. And so I think retirement, it seems so far away that you just think we'll save when it gets a little closer, let's get this done first and then we'll worry about that.
Carol Shepard is 50 years old and makes $40,000 a year. She has no savings. After health problems and personal bankruptcy, she cashed in her 401k and spent the money.
I don't know what happened. I just went through the money, and then I was in a lot of debt at that point, though. I had credit cards that were $5,000 a piece, which probably doesn't sound like a lot to a lot of people. But I was about $18,000 in debt. And I went through bankruptcy and wiped all that out, and then here I am again. Didn't learn anything.
She's afraid that she'll be poor in retirement.
I don't want to be in a position where the only thing I can do is take care of myself. I don't want to eat dog food. I've heard about people who are retired who have to eat dog food. I don't want to end up that way.
But millions of boomers like Mike and Mary Barr are starting to get serious about a retirement plan. They need information about pensions, 401ks, real estate, savings, insurance, investments, and the tax consequences of everything. But whom can they trust? Many consult the person who helps with their taxes or investments.
Our stockbroker is a financial advisor too, and he's a local neighbor, friend, and so it was very easy to talk to him. He hasn't led us astray.
Exactly 2 weeks after we were married, Rob says, hey, I have this meeting set up with this financial planner. And I said, okay. I didn't really know anything about it. We hadn't really discussed finances. We were pretty young when we got married. We hadn't discussed what we were going to do or saving or anything. And so we meet with this man in Kansas, and it turns out it was a 5-hour meeting. I thought it was gonna be like 30 minutes. 5 hours, and he had charts and graphs and showing the stock market and the history of it, and luckily he fed us lunch.
Harvard's David Lapson says to get the best advice, you have to interview several candidates and be prepared to ask tough questions.
You want to ask your advisor, how are you being paid? What benefits do you get from advising me? Is there one fee, many fees? Is there a commission you're getting from the products you're recommending? Is there a conflict of interest?
When you do engage in a conversation with a financial professional, if they are speaking lingo that you don't understand, call them out on it and make them explain it.
Come on in.
Thank you. Hi, Dan. Mike. Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
Mary and Mike got the answers they were looking for from Dan Kendura, certified financial planner.
I don't sell any products. I don't distribute any products or investments. I don't receive any referral fees, and my fee is $175 an hour.
Tonight, we're going to follow along as he helps Mike and Mary chart a course for their future. When will they be able to retire? Are they saving enough? Will they run out of money when they're old? And how can they pay off their credit card debt? Like most financial planners, Kendura tries to get a sense of who Mike and Mary are.
We're biology partners at St. Benedict High School. We were about 14 or 15 years old, and I was pretty, academically inclined, and I didn't like, touching worms or any of that stuff. So we made an agreement, and he told me if I wrote up all the projects, all of the labs, that he would do all the manual labor.
I'd cut up the pigs and the worms that I already going to do, but I wasn't going to do the homework.
And then that was it. We were together from that point on.
Mike and Mary Barr are fortunate in several respects. They have a strong marriage and family. They're also young enough at 49 to have some time to straighten out their retirement plans.
Once you get to be in your 60s, there's not a lot of time to really make up for any of it. You really have to be on the treadmill. And, I think it can be done. I think you can put the positive spin on it and figure out how to do it.
Cindy Hounsel, president of Wiser, the Women's Institute for Secure Retirement, believes that single women are especially vulnerable.
My heart has always been to the women who are waitressing, who are in their 70s. And, we've all been into the diners where you see the women carrying the big trays, and they're not doing that because they needed a second career. They're doing that work because they need the money and they need the tips.
Some people never seem to get ahead in life. Others, like Norris Ferguson of Austin, Texas, live with the consequences of starting all over again. After her divorce, Ferguson moved back to Austin to be with her son Corey, daughter Caroline, and the rest of her large family. Even though she works hard at a job she loves, she's beginning to realize that she won't have enough money to retire.
It's kind of like being caught at something that you're not supposed to be doing. That fear that just comes to your gut.
I saw a lot of hardship come from my family splitting up. All of a sudden you had 2 mortgages, 2 electric bills, 2 water bills, all those things doubled. They had the best restaurant in our hometown in Juneau, Alaska. Dad had a great job. My mom had an import business. And after the divorce, that dissolved. And all this hard work that they had done in their early lives evaporated.
You're 49 years old. You've got 3 children, 2 through school, and Max still in school.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about what the perfect retirement would look like for each of you.
I think to retire both at the same time.
Retirement is more about, having more free time. I look forward to grandchildren. He's saying he's not going to help babysit.
Yeah, I don't want to go right from retirement to babysit.
He'll change his mind when he meets the grand.
Right, when he meets them, right.
The Barrs hope they can retire by the time they're 67 years old, if not before.
Having Social Security and Medicare would be helping us. I don't know how we could realistically retire without health care. And as I understand right now, I think when we're 67 is when our Medicare benefit would come.
Social Security, Medicare, they seemed miles away until recently when Mike and Mary started to look harder at their future. After high school, they both attended college. Mary became a nurse. Mike joined the printing trade. He had a front row seat when America's classic pension retirement plan and his own started to unravel.
It was a union company, so the pension was through the union. I literally had planned on being in that forever, you know. It was a 10-man shop, and they were going to change the rules of the pension. So all the guys, except for me, could retire under the old rule.
Mike says that one of the reasons company pension rules are changing is that so many people in the unions are retiring, including the printers.
That benefit you've earned, you're vested in, which means it's going to be there, but you can't collect it until your retirement age.
And that is literally that they even last week changed that again. There was like a 55 and then a 60, and now they've moved it further up.
Bottom line, about a year ago, Mike Barr joined the ranks of the unemployed. He isn't sure how much of a pension he will get or when he will get it. Still, for some, traditional pension plans are working great. Jory Michelin is an administrative assistant at Northwestern University. Her husband Donald is a recently retired teacher and principal whose pension pays $72,000 a year. In addition, the former track star now coaches high school track in Evanston, Illinois.
It's just wonderful to be back in that and still have something to contribute. So at 55, it's like I'm 35.
From the time they were married at the age of 18, Donald and Jory knew the importance of working hard and saving automatically. They save all of Jory's $44,000 a year salary.
It's going into a savings account, and what happens is when special things come up, then we have to go into that and utilize that.
As Donald and Jory look toward the future, they're satisfied with how they've prepared, very proud of their children and grandchildren, but they do have some concerns for future generations.
Parents of the 50 gave you what you needed, not what you wanted.
But parents of the 50s never imagined the financial revolution their children would end up facing.
Now, we boomers will live much longer. And in the midst of our working career, a big change came. Instead of getting that pension fund check a month for life, we were told, you're going to have a 401k. Do you want to contribute? Hey, pick some mutual funds. It was an overwhelming change in the way we boomers would treat our personal finances.
The basic story of the 401k is that it was a consultant in Pennsylvania doing some pension consulting work for a couple of companies who wanted to do something in particular with their profit-sharing plan. And he found that this relatively recent change in the tax code made it possible for them to offer these individual retirement accounts. And because that part of the tax code was called Section 401k, that's what these plans came to be known as. But it was when Congress enacted that, there was absolutely no thought that this would become the main retirement vehicle for Americans. And there was really no thought that it would even be used as a way for people to invest in a bunch of mutual funds and retire with the money. It was just completely inadvertent.
All those years, while Mike worked as a printer, counting on his pension for the future, Mary contributed to her pension plans at work. She's a registered nurse and coordinator of cardiac rehab at Illinois Masonic Hospital in Chicago. Her savings are split between for-profit and not-for-profit companies.
But I know you've also done some outside savings towards retirement in a 401k plan and a 403b plan.
Right.
Tell me about that.
They have the matching, so they have, they'll match up to, if I put in 6%, they'll match 3%.
Until recently, many people didn't enroll in the 401k savings plan offered at work, and few of those who did contributed the maximum. Still, the money's been piling up.
Americans have $1 trillion right now saved in 401k plans. So the good news is we're seeing people who save grow their net worth. The bad news is we're still seeing the average savings rate is way too low. The average person who uses a 401k plan saves less than 4% of their income.
Well, it's surprising the number of people who turn down such things. They have such immediate demands for their income that they actually forego these immediate matches that they might get.
Behavioral economists like David Leifson have been trying to understand the psychological reasons why people haven't been contributing as much as they can.
They really do intend to contribute. They say they're going to contribute. They plan to contribute. But I'm busy right now, I'll do it next week. And next week turns into 2 weeks, turns into 3 weeks, and every week there's another excuse.
People also didn't contribute because the plans offered within the 401ks were so confusing. The Pension Protection Act of 2006 addressed some of the issues that behavioral economist Richard Thaler has been working on.
Here's what Congress did. They said that if firms did 3 things in their 401k plans, then they would be exempt from certain burdensome paperwork. The first thing they have to do is automatically enroll workers. So people are in unless they fill out paperwork to get out. The second is they automatically increase the contributions for at least 3 years at a level of at least 1% a year. And the third thing, the employer has to provide a match. So they have to provide some incentive for the workers to contribute.
So we have a lot of tools available to us, and large employers are using these tools. The problem is that all of these great systems for helping people save, for nudging them towards saving, for making savings easy, aren't available for at least half of the workforce. And our challenge as a society is to give that other half the same kinds of opportunities.
The people who save the most for retirement are the ones who have the best plans at work. Another boomer, Lisa Mensa, and an executive at the Aspen Institute, is concerned about the other 50% of the workforce, people who don't have savings plans.
We don't have to make a choice of living in the private sector or living in a carefully designed social insurance system. We don't. We want to do both. We need both. Most people always want both.
Partly because there are fewer and fewer defined benefit pension plans and Social Security and Medicare are less secure, financial experts emphasize that everyone who can should maximize their savings in plans at work.
If you don't have money in a 401k or you don't have money in an individual retirement account, you better sit yourself down, look in the mirror, and have a little talk.
Mike has his pension, probably. Mary has her savings plans at work. But their biggest investment is in their home. Not only is owning your home the heart of the American dream, it has been part of the formula for comfortable financial retirement. Buying their first home was a major accomplishment for Mike and Mary Barr.
I remember the first house we bought, we were saving to buy a car. And then we walked into the car dealership and I realized I could pay cash. I think the car was a $20,000 Lincoln or something. I says, you know, we could pay cash for this car. And she's like, yeah. And I go, then we should buy a house.
Best-selling author David Bach says that in America, our homes are our biggest assets.
So I think that what homes are for most people is ultimately the best investment they will make in their lifetime. It is the ultimate bank for them.
Donald Michelin's grandfather taught him that one of the best investments is property.
My grandfather was Julius Posey, and he had a world view of finance, of people. He knew that in the 30s and 40s, as a builder, that he would not be able to go into a bank and secure enough money to build homes. But he became friends with a white lawyer. And his lawyer friend would go get the money in the banks, and they formed a partnership, and he built the homes.
So Donald's grandfather built homes for his whole family, including his grandmother, his mother, his aunt, and 3 more homes across the street.
50 years ago, Grandpa Posey understood the value of property. It will always be a good investment. And I can sit here today and I'm proud, just like Drea, that 3 of the 4 of our children own homes.
David Bach says most Americans invest most of their money in their homes.
Average American takes their house and sells it and buys a bigger house. Just increasing their overhead, increasing their expenses, increasing their insurance. They're just on this treadmill of work, harder, so they can live in a little bit bigger house.
People believe almost with mystical fervor that home prices never fall. They have fallen. Now, the mere fact that they haven't done it in 100 years is not reason to think it won't happen. They've gone up so much this time.
People like Pete White of New Buffalo, Michigan, have seen boom and bust times before. He watched the value of real estate rise in the past.
We look back and, boy, we should have bought this property around Lakeside, Michigan. You could buy lots for $1,500, now they're selling for $150,000.
Yeah.
But you would have to hang on to it 30 years or 40 years. I bought some things that were repoed. People were losing houses to the bank, and you just happen to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're got wings on your back because you're taking advantage of a situation that's available.
When our family purchased the farm in 1946, basically Dad grew up working the fields and everything like that, and I always joke around and call farming a disease because you either got it or you don't, and I don't.
Well, there's an old joke. My portable toilet business supports my farming. So as a yearly income until I start drawing Social Security, you couldn't make a living here.
When you're self-employed, one of the biggest issues is if you can set stuff aside without being able to touch it.
The Whites have invested some money in mutual funds, but it's the 1946 real estate investment that looks like it's going to pay off big.
There's a developer that's wanting to buy roughly 1,000 acres. The amount of money that's offered for the farm would pretty much guarantee my father's retirement, my retirement, and my son's retirement.
Economically wise, the rumor in the neighborhood now is that I'm worth $11 million.
The Barrs are working and saving so they won't have to rely on the equity in their home when they retire. But many older people find themselves with too much home and not enough money.
In a reverse mortgage, you take out money, you're basically house poor, you would say. You have too much of a house, but you don't have much of other income. And so you take out a mortgage that actually pays you out.
The baby boomers are going to be the generation that embraces reverse mortgages in a large way. They're used to using these financial instruments, and they're also accustomed to looking at the home equity as just another asset to be used.
My advice is wait to take out a reverse mortgage until you're in your 70s or early 80s, especially if you think you'll live until your 90s. The amount of that monthly check is determined by the value of your home, current level of interest rates, and your life expectancy.
So a reverse mortgage is just the right thing for people who have a lot of house but not much other income.
As 78 million boomers ride toward retirement, they're finding some interesting stops before the end of the line. Former steel executive Bill Campbell is one of the 160 members of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, where childhood dreams can be pursued again in retirement.
I was 5 years old when I got my first Lionel train, and it was always fascinating. When I was a youngster, my folks would go on vacation and we would ride the passenger trains, which was the way to travel. It was some good experiences.
Life is risky. Sometimes people take risks with their credit cards, or they treat themselves to a vacation or buy a new gadget. They say, I want this now. I might get hit by a car tomorrow. But getting older, retiring, is especially full of risks, like running out of money, prolonged illness, and of course, death itself. Dr. Jennifer Klein of Yale says insurance companies started out protecting people against life's unfortunate what-ifs.
After all, insurance companies were in the security business. They were selling the notion of risk pooling, and they were selling the notion of providing for security for moments that you just hadn't planned on, and for risks, the notion of risk.
Tell me about the life insurance. I know there's a policy on each of you.
If I would die, I wouldn't want him to be stuck with this $104,000 mortgage that's left on the house. So I have around 100. Same thing with him.
Okay.
Will somebody suffer financially at your death? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you probably need some life insurance.
Whole life insurance has an investment component. Term life is simply protection against the risk of death.
Term life insurance is a policy that pays if you die within a certain period of time.
Many boomers are investigating long-term care, another kind of insurance. This one is designed to help minimize costs when they get old. Boomers are sometimes called the sandwich generation because they find themselves caring for their aging parents and sending their kids to college at the same time. They don't want their own children to have to pay to take care of them.
The issue that we now face on the horizon is the question of long-term care, because many more people, of course, are living longer lives, and The statistics show that if you do live past age 65, you're more likely to end up with chronic illness, and you'll have chronic illness at some point in your life. And so long-term care is our next big challenge.
It provides you nursing home care or assisted living care or home assistance, someone who will come take care of you if you need to have someone fix you meals, those kinds of things. The cost of a nursing home today, $75,000 a year for a private room.
State-funded Medicaid programs cover the cost of taking care of people who cannot literally bathe themselves, dress themselves, and Medicaid programs typically do that only in state-funded nursing homes.
Disability insurance is another product that seeks to pull the risk of bad luck.
If I am injured, if I have a stroke, if something bad happens to me during my working life, I will have a check that will take care of me and take care of my family during my rehabilitation period or during my convalescence.
Many companies provide or offer disability policies to their employees. Mary has short and long-term disability plans through her work.
The reality is that roughly 30% of all people between the ages of 35 and 65 are going to be disabled for 90 days or more.
Even when it's not fatal, cancer is a major cause of long-term disability. So injury is about 10 or 15% of the total reasons why people have long-term disability. Illness is the other 85 to 90%.
The biggest fear for many people is outliving their money. Experts call this the longevity risk. But one of the more controversial insurance products on the market offers just that, guaranteed monthly payments for as long as you live.
Now, what is an annuity? An annuity is a product that says, we're going to pay you out a certain amount of money every year until you die. And at that point, the payments stop. So unlike life insurance, which pays out when you die, an annuity pays out when you live.
Bobby Doherty was a successful real estate salesman in downtown Chicago. She says she's able to enjoy a comfortable retirement because of her investments in annuities.
I started working for really the first time in my life in my middle 40s, and I heard about IRAs, and my tax man said if I put money in the IRAs, I got tax deductions, so I always put in the maximum, and that, of course, grew.
When she decided to retire, Doherty wanted an investment that would continue to grow and at the same time provide an income.
And a cousin of mine sold annuities. So he told me about annuities, and it sounded almost like the old-fashioned pensions, something for life.
I rather like the idea of older people looking into immediate annuities. I'm not a fan of variable annuities or very complex products, but for an elderly person that doesn't want to be bothered with finances, who thinks they have a better than even chance of living longer than the average person, I think that's a great, great deal.
People have a lot of trouble thinking about annuities because annuities are so different from life insurance, which they understood their entire lives. Life insurance, it pays out when I die. Annuities, it pays me nothing when I die. It pays out when I live. It's a complete flip. But we have to make that flip if we want to plan appropriately.
We all already have an annuity. That's essentially what the Social Security system gives us. It's the money we can't outlive. And our question is, how could we get more Americans to not outlive their money?
The personal savings rate in America is at an all-time low. The latest reports indicated a negative savings rate, meaning that we were spending money that we had borrowed. While some financial experts tell consumers to spend money in order to keep the economic wheel turning, others say we should save as much money as we can. We're going to need it when we get old.
And it's like the newest technology comes out, or laptops or cars, and I want that. Because when somebody sees it, they say, oh, that's a beautiful car you have, or that's a neat cell phone you have, or you have that, you have this, you have that, whatever. You know, and it's kind of a way to impress people.
And we have to change the national mentality from I see it, I want it, charge it, borrow it, suck the equity out of our homes, to let's put some money aside for not the rainy day, but the inevitable old age day.
You should be saving a minimum of 1 hour a day of your income automatically for the rest of your life. Now, if you're watching this and you're in your 50s and you've got very little in savings, then you need to be saving 2 hours a day of your income.
Rob and Kelly seem to be natural savers.
First magazine I think I ever remember getting, besides I got Ranger Rick, was called Penny Pincher magazine. It was a little magazine. I guess it was made for preteens about how to save money.
I was teaching a class, and a young woman stood up at the end of my class after 4 weeks and said, "David, I can't save $5 to $10 a day." Well, every morning Kim went and got a latte, and I started pointing out to her that was $5 a day, and that if she saved the $5 a day, she's in her early 20s, she could be a millionaire by the time she reached retirement.
Sharon Fox, 64, of Seattle, Washington, has been saving for 20 years. Recently, she stepped up her savings plan.
For 10 years, I worked 2 jobs. I worked 5 days a week where I am now, and then I also worked 3 to 4 days or evenings at another school, and that's what I did to help make my nest egg grow. Working 2 jobs, I saved 40%. And that's how I've accumulated what I have these last 11 and a half years. And I've worked very hard and saved every penny I could.
The Bars have been saving regularly, but they're still worried there won't be enough.
So your retirement may begin sooner than you think, it may last longer than you think, and it's probably going to be more expensive.
Like all of us, they face the longevity risk.
If one retires at age 62, let's say, with $300,000, that sounds, hey, that's a lot of money. But that person could easily live 30 years. So $300,000 divided by 30 is only $10,000 a year.
The Bars now live on about $70,000 a year.
All savings is good. So save whenever you can. That's not, however, investing. Investing is putting money away in which there's a potential for gain and a potential for loss.
The problem with putting your money in a traditional savings account is that inflation can eat up savings. There are so many investment opportunities: stocks, bonds, baskets of this, indexes of that, mutual funds specializing in all kinds of things.
So you're the right one.
Melody Hobson, president of Ariel Capital Management, knows why many boomers don't understand finances.
You know, no one's ever taught them because that financial literacy hasn't existed. So while ultimately the individual is becoming increasingly responsible and accountable, they haven't been given the tools to make the great decisions that, in my view, that will lead to a secure retirement.
Melody Hobson doesn't want to see another generation grow up without understanding finances. So the Ariel Company started the Ariel Community Academy in Chicago. Here, school children are given real money to invest through grade school and are taught about how to manage their money.
So this is our portfolio, and I called it the Building Wealth Mutual Fund because we want to invest to build wealth, right? Who wants to be rich? Anyone not choose to be rich? Who would like to be poor? No one. Okay, so we want to build wealth with a mutual fund, right? So one of the things that we can do is we can think about what to invest in. So let's just say I'm a portfolio manager and I'm studying all the things that are going on in the world, and one of the things that I decide to invest in is McCormick spices. And it seems to me that we all buy spices again and again, right? So I'm going to put spices in my portfolio, and specifically McCormick. Now, the other thing I'm going to put in my portfolio is something that I know I love, and I think you guys do too. Who likes cereal? This is General Mills. They're based in Minneapolis, and we're going to put cereal in our portfolio because who thinks that you'll keep eating cereal? As an investor, if you invested in the Building Wealth Mutual Fund, one day General Mills shares might be doing really well, and they're up. And on that same day, Clorox shares may not be doing so well and they're down, but because we have a basket of stocks and not just one thing, they balance each other out. And so we don't lose as much money, we don't make as much money. So that's the benefit of diversification.
Over the years, investment in the stock market has allowed many people to accrue enough wealth to retire comfortably. Real estate and business investments have also grown handsomely over the years. But investments don't always turn out the way you want them to. Robert and Rhonda Camphy are tragic examples.
We had personal IRAs. We had a friend who suggested stocks. We had stock portfolios. We had a little savings account. We were pretty good. Put in the maximum we could each year.
I'm just calling around to tell people that
Superior Mold is going out of business.
Until recently, they owned a successful plastic molding and tool-making business.
Throughout the years, we've cashed in the IRAs to keep things going, dissolved the portfolios, sold the stocks. The only thing left to do was to refinance our home and our business. We really kept thinking that business would pick up, that at some point the river would stop flowing to China, and it just never quite happened. And now we're in the process of losing everything because we're remortgaged and can't make payments. We've had to declare a bankruptcy, Chapter 13. Well, we did it as a last-ditch effort. We tried to communicate with a mortgage holder for the house, but apparently it's a group that has been buying distressed mortgages, and they just wouldn't communicate.
All the experts agree that younger people can take more risk with stocks than older people can.
The worker at age 25, if there are reverses in the stock market, still has a salary to tide them over. The retired person, perhaps in ill health at the age of 75, any reversal in the stock market or their investment portfolio could immediately affect their standard of living.
Many financial experts today tout the value of funds that automatically adjust a portfolio as a person nears retirement age.
The fastest growing product category is a category called target maturity funds.
And what a target fund is it's diversified, it's got stocks, it's got bonds, it's got other assets, and the mix becomes safer as one ages.
Hundreds, perhaps thousands of financial gurus report every day on the best investment strategies. The experts we interviewed offered some suggestions for all of us to think about.
I would say the core advice for any sort of retirement planning is assume that bad things can happen in the markets, even in markets that and nothing bad has happened in for quite a while.
The old saying is it's time in the market, not market timing.
And in particular, those stocks that pay high dividend yields have been particularly good for long-term investors. As a result, corporate governance is better. The discipline of needing that cash to pay the dividends means there's less chance of manipulation by management.
Risk, however, is a deeply personal concept. Not all 50-year-olds have the same ideas about what feels like a risky portfolio. And so if you find yourself investing in such a way that you're having night sweats and you're in a panic every time the market goes down 1 or 2%, chances are you're probably investing too aggressively for your own personal preferences.
It should be diversified among different asset classes: common stocks, bonds, real estate, and so forth. And the common stocks should not simply be United States common stocks. They should be common stocks all over the world.
Actually, the overall global market is about 50% US and 50% international. Now, I don't really know hardly anybody who has anything like a 50-50 mix. I'm not saying you should go that far, but if you're having 5 or 10%, you probably have way too little.
Don't look at your portfolio every day. The worst thing you can do is panic and get out at those bottoms. Keep your cool. Remember, you're in there for the long run. Remember that all these crises have resolved themselves. Stocks have bounced back. Economies have maintained their strength, and stocks continue to be the best long-term investment.
My role is just to encourage Americans to think about the future, to do what you can do now. You know, time is on your side, even if you're in your 50s. If you're really going to live to be 90, and you put away $2,000 a year and got the average historic returns of the stock market, 30 years from now, you'd have an extra $500,000.
You know, it doesn't make any difference if you make 5% on your investments, or 10%, or 15%, if you don't start saving to begin with.
Once people have mastered the strategies for saving and investing, financial experts advise them to be careful with their nest eggs. They say never, ever, ever take the money out of your 401k.
People in their 50s who are pulling money out and redoing the house, that's insanity. It's crazy. This is your nest egg. I think that you should really be looking at the money you put away in a retirement account as your emergency retirement savings plan.
People change jobs a lot more than they used to, and when they move to a new job or retire, their companies often return their 401k investments as a lump sum.
When you cash out your 401k plan, you pay taxes and you pay penalties. It is a financial disaster.
There's an advisor in this.
Ed Slott, a CPA and IRA advisor, says the best thing you can do with a lump sum payout is to roll it over without seeing, smelling, or touching it.
That's the best way to move money because you can't mess it up. It goes right from the one plan to another plan. You have to be very careful when you move tax-sheltered money. Tax-sheltered money is like an eggshell. You break it, it's over. It's taxable. All that tax comes out. And this is an area where people are making huge mistakes.
There are tax consequences however you save money. Some people believe when they retire, they will be in a lower income tax bracket, so they save in an IRA tax-deferred account. With Roth plans, it's the other way around. You pay taxes before you save money.
There will be tax-free money when I take it out.
But the big back end, you get a windfall tax-free for the rest of your life. The last thing on earth you want in retirement is to have to pay taxes on the money you're pulling out.
Slott says between the ages of 59.5 and 70.5, you can take money out of your IRA without paying a penalty. But the tax man lurks on either side of that decade.
Before 59.5, there's a 10% penalty for withdrawing early, in addition to the tax. After 70.5, there are required distribution rules. In other words, that's the time that our government has decided they're just sick and tired of waiting for you to drop dead and they want their money back. If you don't take that money out on time, it's a 50% penalty on the amount you should have withdrawn but didn't. That kind of penalty can consume a retirement account very quickly. So there are severe penalties really on both sides.
So a Roth is a good way to sort of offset some of that and have some money that you can take out whenever you want, or you can leave to your children tax-free as well. Because Roths, they can take out when they inherit them on a tax-free basis.
Ed Slott has another great tip. He says if you name a person as the beneficiary on an IRA account, when you die, the money goes directly to that person. They are only taxed on the minor deductions they must take every year.
In 6 seconds at the bank, when they opened the IRA some 20, 30 years ago maybe, they sign here, here, and here, next, and the most important decision of your life is made. And it's almost never checked until when you're dead and it's too late. And everybody's saying, well, those beneficiaries don't even exist. That was my ex-wife. I don't want him or her getting the money. But they will. The beneficiary form trumps all. There's no secret in America. To build real wealth, keep your money away from the government for as long as possible.
As people begin to consider retirement, many are embarrassed or worried about debt they've racked up on credit cards. The fact that Americans owe trillions of dollars doesn't bother Mary and Mike Barr nearly as much as the $14,000 they themselves owe.
That large amount is fairly new.
No, but it's our biggest concern, I think, right now.
Yeah.
How did that build up?
It built up more rapidly lately because when Mike became unemployed and then decided to start his own business, then he uses the credit card a lot for the business.
I thought, well, I'll be out for a couple weeks. Well, now it's been a year. Then we got into that habit where I was using the card to go purchase, stuff for these side jobs.
Like millions of boomers, Mike Barr, at almost 50 years old, found himself unemployed. He'd take another printing job if one turned up. Meanwhile, he started his own carpentry business.
Our research shows that there are more entrepreneurs 50 and older than there are under 50. They are ready to try new things, and sadly, some of them are being pushed out of their jobs and therefore pushed into entrepreneurship.
Mark Friedman is CEO of Civic Ventures, a think tank dedicated to making older people's lives more dynamic and meaningful. His book, Encore, is about finding work that matters in the second part of life.
We need to view this period between the end of first careers and the beginning of Encore careers as an opportunity to retool and oftentimes as an opportunity for a new round of higher education.
Some boomers realize they need to dig back into their human capital to prepare for second careers. Vince Hayes has a good retirement income from the federal government. He could have headed for the golf course full-time, but he wanted to teach. At 57, he went back to school. He now teaches at the Seattle Vocational Institute.
Well, our students here are academically challenged to a large degree, both because of ESL, English as a second language, immigrant status, not being very successful in an educational setting prior to coming here. We're interested in trying to get the person educated and learn a trade so that they don't have to rely on welfare, they don't have to rely on handouts.
Baby boomers are becoming accustomed to the idea that they're going to be working for longer than they thought. Bill Novelli says that working into your 70s is the wave of the future, and the future is now.
Half of our 38+ million members are working. They're working full-time or part-time. They're working because they want to or they have to.
You may not be able to retire when you were 62 as you thought, you know. You may have to go until 70. You may have to go longer than that.
Cindy Hounsel believes that women will be working a lot longer than men. She thinks their problems started long ago in their careers.
Well, you know, you're not making as much money as somebody else, but you're thinking, well, I can leave, you know, maybe I can sneak out of the job a little bit early and go pick up my kids from school. And so they're willing to not look at all of those issues and how it will affect their future.
Jan Pina Davis also wonders if women, who now live an average of 5 years longer than men, are at special risk.
We're the baby boomers and we're pretty independent and we've taken risks, but I think that many women still sort of relied on their husbands. And I think there's so many women who don't have husbands now, choose not to have husbands, who are now confronted with the idea, okay, how am I gonna live? Where am I gonna live? And yeah, it sort of did sneak up on us. I'm working summer school and hoping that this will be pensionable, and I work a lot of programs so that the money will go into Roth funds, just money to start where I can at least get more than $20,000 a year.
Do you want your grandchildren worried that Nana is poor? And, you know, we have to bring food over to Nana because she has no money? None of us want that.
To be honest with you, yeah, I've probably wasted an enormous amount of money racking up credit card debt, buying specific kinds of underwear because I like Swedish underwear for, yeah.
Most boomers probably won't work till they drop, as in colonial times, but many will work a lot longer than they thought.
We've had a 50-year deal in this country with older people in which we've essentially said, please stop working. It was a little bit like parity in farming where we pay people not to grow crops. We've given people a lot of financial incentives to end their working lives by 65, if not earlier.
But that is changing. Some recent retirees, like Bernie Yoder, are able to find new part-time jobs that help maximize their retirement options. He hauls travel trailers and RVs across the country.
This is my play money. I buy my gas from my airplane and I buy my gas from my boat, and a little extra I put into the household expenses. I take my wife with me sometimes and she enjoys it. We spend 1 day of travel or 2 days travel and then a couple of days of sightseeing and then come on home.
Mark Friedman's Civic Ventures honors both working people and volunteers over the age of 60 involved in solving critical social problems. 13 years ago, Gary Maxworthy left a successful business to help start the California Food Banks.
We have a group of retired people come in every week to volunteer, and what's great about them is that they're regulars. They come in every single week and we can rely on them.
This new group of people who are hitting their 60s are looking for something quite different from their parents' generation. They're looking to remain engaged, to use their talent, and as a result are an under-recognized, underappreciated, and untapped resource.
Janet O works with another Civic Ventures project, Experience Corps, which connects older volunteers with the people who need them.
We recruit older adults and we place them in schools, and they're paired with students to help work one-on-one with teaching them how to read and also just giving them some of that self-confidence that's needed in terms of being able to enjoy learning and knowing that you can learn.
One raspberry. Do you want it in your tea? Or
Jack and Marty Greendonner, retired with comfortable pensions, found the right volunteer fit in Michigan. Jack volunteers once a week at Habitat for Humanity.
This is my Thursday. Yeah, we call ourselves the Thursday Crew.
The Caring Cupboard is a ministry to people who have a want or a need for food or household products.
Many people with a lifetime of service abroad have found ways to make a difference closer to home. Dr. Dan Fountain and his wife spent 35 years in Central Africa in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
The things that we learned during our many years of service are things that we feel can be a benefit to others. The vast majority of people who come to see us with chronic illnesses have many, many heavy burdens in their inner person, and we're aware that these things actually have physiological effects on us. They affect our cardiovascular system, our digestive system, and in particular the immune system.
As they grow older, many boomers find themselves connecting more deeply with their families and the spiritual values of their youth.
our grandchildren and our children live within 5 miles of us, and we never realized what we deprived our parents of. They never really had relationships with our children because we lived so far away. And it's precious. It's wonderful to have that opportunity.
Robin and Joel Haslam went back to the land in the 1960s. The spiritual value they experienced those many years ago had been enhanced through a lifetime of farming. They will retire where they have lived, in the Minnesota heartland.
We've made this choice because we want to be stewards of all these years of working, and we want to use the time we have left with whatever resources we have, not to spend on ourselves, on the boats and the trips and those things, but to use in ways that will be meaningful for other people.
As we've seen, baby boomers are part of a revolutionary new world. They're learning about things their parents didn't have to think about, like 401ks, overseas markets, annuities, reverse mortgages. Many are just starting to plan for their financial futures, but they're jumping into it with both feet, like Mike and Mary Barr. Dan Kendur is about to give them their financial report card. First, he had some surprising advice for Mike and his new business. He actually advised Mike to get another credit card.
Keep a separate credit card account for the business and try not to mix and mingle them. It'll make things much easier in April.
His new business would also allow him to set up an individual savings account.
You're starting a small business, and small businesses can set up retirement plans. You can do an individual 401k plan, which is a very easy thing to do.
He showed them how to pay off their home mortgage a lot faster by making an extra mortgage payment every year, and why long-term care insurance is probably a good idea for them.
Particularly where you're going to want to stay in the house. You don't have a lot of other accumulated assets. And yes, long-term care makes sense if it's an affordable kind of situation.
Like boomers everywhere, the Barrs were still worried. How are they going to be able to afford the rest of their lives? But after going through all the numbers, the planner had good news.
The only change I'm going to suggest you make is, from a retirement planning standpoint, is you become more aggressive in your investment planning.
He showed them how their savings and investments could grow over the years.
So you can see a difference in the shape of the two graphs, okay? This is what you're doing now, this is what I'm going to suggest. And what you'll see is, from here until 2050, we're still on an upward slope. Okay, so the most important thing people don't want to do is see this starting to slope down and running out of money. It doesn't look like you're going to run out of money. You're in really very good shape. But you're saving at a good, healthy rate. Your goal to retire at 67 is solid.
That's wonderful. Well, it's better news than I thought. It really is.
As the Barrs begin planning for a successful retirement, most of the rest of us are also getting ready to put our skills and savings to work for the day that retirement begins. We've learned that retirement isn't something that's just going to happen to us, and it isn't the end of the line. For most of us, retirement age is a new beginning. Some things are pretty clear. It is never too early or too late to start saving for retirement. Boomers will work longer because we want to or because we need the extra income to get along. Social Security is in better shape than many feared, but Medicare is going to need a lot of attention from everyone. We're at least as concerned about the welfare of others as we are about ourselves. For the next several decades, 78 million baby boomers will be moving into retirement, facing enormous challenges. Challenges stimulated in part by the huge numbers of older people in our society. Our lives are being changed by the retirement revolution, and we are changing it for the better, we hope. Thanks so much for joining us.
To find out more about Retirement Revolution and planning for your financial future, visit pbs.org.
Very good. What animal is this?
Zebra. Hexagon.
Bumblebee.
Good. So what color does red and yellow make? Orange. Rhinoceros. Yellow. Tiger. Tap.
It's important we get more out of your 401k plan. It should be
matching contributions.
It's not too late to learn how to plan for retirement. MassMutual and your financial professional can help you get there.
We are PBS.